What is the greatest unsolved mystery of all time? Before we start, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Story 1. The Disappearance of Asha Degree. In 2000, 9-year-old Asha Degree vanished under mysterious circumstances. In the dead of night, during a fierce storm, Asha packed a bag and left her home. She was last seen walking along a highway by a passing driver who tried to offer her help. However, Asha ran into the woods and disappeared without a trace. There was no indication that Asha had any reason to run away, and her book bag was discovered a year later, offering few clues. While it's believed she may have been abducted while walking, the big question remains: why would a young girl leave her home in the midst of such a violent storm? Story 2. I'm fascinated by unsolved mysteries, but one that always stands out to me is the murder of Missy Beavers. She was killed in the early hours of the morning at a church where she taught yoga. Security footage from the church revealed the murderer roaming the halls throughout the night. But what makes this case especially eerie is the fact that the killer was dressed head to toe in police riot gear. The video is unsettling. It's chilling to watch someone move through the church like that. There have been plenty of theories, but Missy's murder remains unsolved, and to this day, there hasn't even been a clear suspect in the case. Story 3. The aerial school encounter in Zimbabwe. Over 60 schoolchildren in Zimbabwe witnessed mysterious craft landing and beings emerging from them. The children interacted with these entities, and their accounts were later evaluated by a Harvard psychiatrist. Despite their young age, all of the children provided strikingly similar testimonies and even drew remarkably consistent images of what they had seen. After thorough evaluation, it was concluded that the children were truthful in their accounts. Story 4. The Disappearance of the Springfield 3. It is one of the most baffling cases I've come across. In the early hours of June 7, 1992, 3 women, Cheryl Levitt, 47, her daughter Suzanne Susie Streeter, 19, and Susie's friend Stacy McCall, 18, vanished from Cheryl and Susie's home after a night of celebrating Susie's high school graduation. All their personal belongings were left behind: cars, purses, and even their small dog. Strangely, there were no signs of a struggle or foul play, but the broken glass globe on the front porch light remained, and an odd message on the answering machine was accidentally deleted. Despite these unusual details, no trace of the women has ever been found, and the case remains unsolved, even 30 years later. Story 5. The Chicago TV hijacking. One of my favorites is the infamous Chicago TV hijacking. In 1987, during a Doctor Who rerun, a person dressed as Max Headroom managed to interrupt the broadcast for a minute and a half. During the hijacking, the figure exposed his backside, got spanked by a woman, and even mocked Coca-Cola. Despite years of investigation by the FCC, the culprit has never been identified or charged, leaving this bizarre incident shrouded in mystery. Story 6. The Disappearance of Brian Schaefer. One mystery that always fascinates me is the case of Brian Schaefer, a student at Ohio State University who mysteriously disappeared in the mid-2000s. To this day, no one knows what happened to him. The story goes like this. Brian went out to a popular bar with friends. Security footage shows him entering the bar, which had only one entrance and exit, located within a larger building. However, the footage never shows him leaving at the end of the night. Despite extensive investigations, Brian Schaefer's disappearance remains unsolved. It's a truly eerie mystery worth looking into. Story 7. The Yuba County 5. The case of the Yuba County 5 is one that defies explanation. As one detective put it, not a damn thing about this case makes any sense at all. In 1978, 5 men with mild intellectual disabilities went to watch a college basketball game. They were excited for their own game the following morning. One of them had even laid out his uniform in preparation. After the game they had attended as spectators, they stopped at a convenience store to buy snacks. The rappers were later found in the car, and the cashier even remembered them. But then things take a bizarre turn. Instead of heading home, the men drove miles out of their way to a remote national park. They left their perfectly functional and fueled car behind and wandered into the snowy wilderness unprepared. A witness reported seeing a second vehicle, possibly with a woman, and another convenience store clerk claimed to have seen them the next day. 3 of the men were found dead in the woods, likely from exposure. The 4th was discovered in a nearby trailer that had heat and food supplies, enough to survive for quite some time. Yet he had apparently starved to death, losing around 200 pounds before succumbing to hypothermia. His beard had grown for about 13 weeks. The 5th man was never found. So many questions remain. Why did they leave their car and head into the wilderness? Why did one of them starve in a trailer with food and warmth? If there was foul play involved, what was the motive? There was no robbery. Nothing was stolen from the car. Even if it were some kind of cult activity, none of them were harmed physically. They all died from exposure to the elements. It's a case that continues to haunt investigators and remains one of the most puzzling disappearances in history. Story 8. The lost knowledge of Castle Alamut. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding Castle Alamut is what was lost when its library was destroyed. In 1282 AD, the Mongols besieged and burned the castle, marking the end of the legendary stronghold of the Assassins, a secretive order founded by Hassan Isabah. Alamut had long been a center of political intrigue, with the Assassins known for carrying out high-profile murders and targeting key political figures. The castle was also said to be home to stunning gardens, an oasis of beauty and tranquility amidst the harsh landscape. But it was the library that piqued the most curiosity. When the Mongols overtook Alamut, they set fire to the castle, and with it, the assassins' precious documents and texts. What knowledge was lost in those flames? What secrets about the assassin order, their methods, and their philosophy were contained in those now-destroyed writings? The beauty of Alamut's gardens also remains shrouded in mystery. Were they truly as magnificent as described, or was that part of the myth? And if these gardens existed, what role did they play in the lives of the assassins? The destruction of Alamut and its library left a void that has never been filled. What was contained in those lost texts, and how much of it could have changed our understanding of history? We may never know. Story 9. America's Lost Child, The Child in the Box. On February 25, 1953, a young boy's body was found in a cardboard box in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The child, estimated to be around 4 to 6 years old, had a fresh haircut and neatly trimmed nails, but his body showed signs of severe abuse. The police quickly classified the case as a homicide, but despite numerous investigations and theories, the boy's identity remains unknown, and the circumstances surrounding his death have never been fully explained. To this day, the case remains open as authorities continue to search for answers and the person responsible for his tragic death. Story 10. The Adam Case. This case involves the discovery of a young boy's torso in the River Thames in London in 2001. Investigators believe the child, who was estimated to be around 4 to 6 years old, may have been trafficked from Nigeria and murdered as part of a ritual sacrifice. Despite extensive efforts to identify the boy, his identity has never been confirmed, and the case remains one of the most haunting and unresolved mysteries in recent history. Story 11. I've always found the story of the Mary Celeste fascinating. It's one of those mysteries that still doesn't make sense after all these years. On a more recent note, the Las Vegas mass shooting is truly baffling. The gunman was a wealthy, seemingly content millionaire with a stable life, yet he suddenly opened fire on a crowd from a hotel room. What could have possibly triggered such an unfathomable act? It's a question that still haunts many. Story 12. The WOW Signal. On August 15, 1977, a powerful narrowband radio signal, later dubbed the WOW signal, was detected by the Big Ear radio telescope at Ohio State University. The signal, originating from deep space, remains one of the most intriguing and unexplained anomalies in the search for extraterrestrial life. Story 13. The Kaz-2 Mystery. The disappearance of the Kaz-2 remains one of the most eerie and unsettling maritime mysteries. In 2007, a 10-meter-long boat was found drifting near the Great Barrier Reef with no sign of its 3 crew members. When the Coast Guard boarded the vessel, everything appeared to be in order. Food was left on the table, a laptop was still on, and all systems were functioning perfectly. Yet, there was no trace of the crew. Despite the lack of any distress signals or signs of struggle, the men were simply gone, leaving behind one of the most baffling disappearances at sea. Story 14. The Chicago Tylenol Murders, 1982. The Chicago Tylenol murders in 1982 remain one of the most chilling and baffling crimes in American history. Someone laced bottles of Tylenol with cyanide, causing 7 people to die after taking the over-the-counter painkiller. But who would commit such a horrifying act, and why? Was it the work of a single individual acting alone, or did the culprit target multiple locations to tamper with the bottles? Despite intense investigations and numerous theories, the case remains unsolved, leaving many questions unanswered. Story 15. The disappearances of the Bowmont children, the mystery of the Bogle Chandler case, and the notorious killings committed by Ivan Milat. These are some of the most chilling cases that still haunt us. How many victims did Milat really have, and did he act alone, or was there someone else involved? The truth remains elusive in many of these cases. And then there's the odd question of why my cat screams in the middle of the night, even though she has everything she needs. Some mysteries, it seems, may never have an answer. Story 16. The disappearance of a 9-foot great white shark off the coast of Australia. In 2003, researchers tagged a 3-meter-long female great white shark off the coast of Australia to track its movements, water temperature, and depth. However, 4 months later, the shark mysteriously vanished. The tag eventually washed ashore, revealing a startling discovery. The shark had dived to a depth of about 610 meters, 2,000 feet, where the water temperature suddenly spiked from 7 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. This dramatic shift led researchers to believe that the shark was likely eaten by another predator, prompting a search for whatever creature may have been responsible for its disappearance. Story 17. The Paradox of the Big Bang. We often think of the universe as having started with the Big Bang, a moment when all of the universe's matter was compressed into an incredibly small point at an extraordinarily high temperature, which led to the formation of atoms, the laws of physics, solid matter, and everything we know. That makes sense on the surface, but what always confuses me is, how did that matter get into that point in the first place? We know that energy can't be created or destroyed, but it can't have just existed forever, right? Everything must have a beginning. Yet there's a paradox here. You can't make something out of nothing. Maybe the Big Bang happened due to the collapse of a previous universe. But then, where did that universe come from? It's one of those questions that just keeps me up at night. Story 18. A song from my childhood that we can't find anywhere. This might not be the biggest mystery out there, but it's been bugging me and my friend for a while now. My friend remembers a song from their childhood, but despite searching everywhere, we can't find any trace of it online. We have some lyrics, though they may be slightly misremembered. It goes like, "In a Spanish garden stands a little tree. In the winter it's a lovely thing to see, for it wears a coat of glistening white." A brand new coat of glistening white. It's genuinely a mystery for us, and it's kind of wild that we can't find anything about it online. Story 19. What happened 4,000 to 5,000 years ago that led to the collapse of the Eastern Mediterranean civilizations? There's a massive gap in written history, about 1,000 years, where it seems like much of the knowledge and records from that time has disappeared. Story 20. One mystery that truly fascinates me is the Indus Valley Civilization. This ancient society built large, well-planned cities along the banks of the Indus River, featuring advanced sanitation systems and remarkable architectural skills. The people were incredibly talented designers and builders. At some point, however, the inhabitants of these cities began to abandon them, or possibly perished. Centuries later, archaeologists began excavating the ruins. Despite extensive research, no one has been able to pinpoint the exact cause of the city's collapse, though several theories exist. What makes it even more intriguing is that they had a written script, yet it remains completely untranslated. Archaeologists have uncovered statues, buildings, tools, coins, and much more, offering a glimpse into their world. It's puzzling how this once thriving civilization just seemed to vanish from history. Story 21. In my opinion, the Battle of Los Angeles is one of the most intriguing mysteries. During World War II, an unidentified object was spotted hovering over Los Angeles. The city's entire anti-aircraft defense system engaged the object, firing for about an hour, thinking it was a Japanese aircraft. Despite their efforts, they couldn't damage it. After a while, the object just vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving no trace behind. Story 22. D.B. Cooper. This guy hijacks a plane, steals a bunch of money from the government, demands a parachute, and then jumps out of the plane, vanishing without a trace. What an absolute legend. Story 23. The Bowmont children disappearance. The case of the missing Bowmont children is one of Australia's most haunting mysteries. It occurred on Australia Day, January 26, 1966, in my home state of South Australia. A mother allowed her 3 children, Jane, 9, Arna, 7, and Grant, 4, to catch the bus to the local beach for the afternoon, with the simple rule that they'd be home by around 3 p.m. Jane, the oldest, was considered very responsible, and it wasn't unusual for kids to go off on their own back then. The mother gave them some shillings and pence, but notably number £1 note, which was important later. The children made it to the beach without incident and were seen playing with a surfer-like man on the grassy knoll near the shore. Later, they were seen walking off with him. Several witnesses reported seeing the children along the way. The man at the deli where they bought pies and pastries, paying with a £1 note, a key detail since the children hadn't been given one, and the local postman who saw them and waved to them. After that, they vanished without a trace. Despite extensive searches, nothing was ever found. No bodies, no clothing, no personal items, not even the paperback copy of Little Women that Jane had with her. It's as if they simply disappeared off the face of the earth. The case is often referred to as the day Adelaide lost its innocence. What makes this mystery even more chilling is that in 1973, 7 years later, another disturbing disappearance occurred. 2 young girls, Tracy Gordon, 4, and Joan Ratcliffe, 11, vanished during a state football match. Witnesses saw them with a man who eerily matched the description of the man seen with the Bowmont children 7 years earlier. Just like the Bowmonts, no trace of the girls was ever found. No bodies, no belongings, nothing. There are various theories surrounding both disappearances, but the most widely accepted, though still unproven, is that the same man was responsible for both cases, as well as a few other unsolved child disappearances and murders in different parts of Australia. Many believe there was a serial killer of children who operated undetected for years, abducting children in highly public places, right under the noses of the public. The mystery remains unsolved to this day, leaving a shadow over Adelaide and the country as a whole. Story 24. Lori Erica Ruff's true identity. In a strange and unsettling case, a Texas woman named Lori Erica Ruff died by unaliving herself. But what followed was even more bizarre. After her death, her ex-husband and children discovered a box filled with odd documents and papers that suggested she wasn't who she claimed to be. Despite extensive investigations, no one has been able to uncover her true identity. There are theories about where she might have come from, but the mystery remains unsolved, and the truth about who Lori Erica Ruff really was is still a mystery to this day. Story 25. One of my all-time favorite unsolved mysteries is the Dyatlov Pass incident. In 1959, a group of experienced skiers in the Ural Mountains tragically died, with hypothermia being the official cause of death. However, their bodies showed signs of strange and unexplained injuries. Some had severe internal trauma, which many speculated could have been caused by an avalanche, but there was no concrete evidence to support that theory. The group's tent had been mysteriously torn open from the inside, and their bodies were found to be highly radioactive. One of the victims had her tongue removed, and some others had internal damage with no external signs of injury. What's even stranger is that there was no indication of any other people being in the area, making it seem unlikely that an attack was involved. The whole case is full of unanswered questions, and it's one of the most eerie and baffling incidents I've ever come across. Story 26. Satoshi Nakamoto. Regardless of what you think about Bitcoin, this person/people invented and implemented it holds a stash worth billions and then just disappeared. None of their Bitcoin has moved since, and we would know the moment it does. We know which coins in the blockchain are theirs, and it's watched like a hawk. It's like something out of a movie, but it's 100% real. The current value of his stash is approximately $42 billion. Story 27. The Vela Incident. In September 1979, a U.S. Vela hotel spy satellite detected a strange and distinct double flash of light in the southern Indian Ocean, a remote, desolate area. This flash was consistent with a nuclear detonation, yet unlike every other nuclear test in history, no country claimed responsibility for it. Declassified documents suggest that the CIA believed the blast might have been a joint operation between Israel and South Africa. According to a captured KGB spy, the Soviets thought the same, though how much weight we should give that claim depends on how much trust we place in information from defectors. What makes this even more intriguing is that South Africa did have a nuclear weapons program, though they eventually abandoned it. They're officially known not to have tested a nuclear device. Israel, on the other hand, has nuclear weapons, though it remains an open secret. So, who was responsible? Was there actually a nuclear detonation, or could the satellite have been triggered by a false positive? The mystery remains unsolved. Story 28. It would be amazing to finally know the identities of Jack the Ripper, the person behind the Black Dahlia murder, or whether the Zodiac Killer was actually the one sending all those creepy letters to the police. But honestly, I'm starting to think ancient aliens might just be the answer to all three of these mysteries. Story 29. Where is Juan Perón's hands? In 1987, the hands of Juan Perón, the late president of Argentina, were mysteriously stolen from his tomb, along with his cap and sword. The thieves sent a ransom note to members of his political party, demanding money for the return of the items. 6 men were arrested in connection with the crime, and 5 were arraigned, but no charges were ever filed, and the hands were never recovered. To this day, the whereabouts of Perón's hands remain unknown, and no one has ever been held accountable for the bizarre theft. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.